From the Broadcast Club and the UWM Post, this is Your Voice, Your Vote, a political debate among candidates for student government at UW-Milwaukee. It's time to decide.
Welcome to a debate among the presidential and vice presidential candidates for Student Association. I'm Lauren Reimer of the Broadcast Club. The SA President is the single elected representative responsible to all students and is the official voice of students to administration, faculty, and state government. There are three party candidates with us for Vice President and Vice President this year. The Allied Student Voice Party candidate for President is Dan Laughland. He is currently Senator. And the vice presidential candidate is Tereza Pelicaric. She is the current Deputy Speaker of the Senate. The Iconic Party's presidential candidate is current Senator Hugo Nguyen. The party's candidate for vice president is Jory DeLoach. Mr. DeLoach, who is current vice chair of the College Republicans, has elected to not participate in the debate. The United Panthers Party candidate for president is Rick Banks. He is the current Speaker of the Senate. His running mate is Eric Groh, who is currently Special Assistant to the President. Now let's go to our moderator for tonight's debate. Zach Brook is Assistant Editor for the UWM Post. Zach?
Thank you, Lauren. Candidates, the rules for tonight's debate are fairly simple. I'll ask a question and each party will have 1 minute to respond. Either candidate for the party can respond. After all responses, we will go around again for 30-second rebuttals. The timer for tonight's debate is Callie Kohler of the UWM Post. She will ring a bell when the candidate has reached the time limit. Twice during the debate, we will take a question from one of our audience members, and we will finish up with targeted questions for each individual candidate. Let's begin with opening statements. For these, we will have no rebuttals. By random draw, the first opening statement comes from United Panthers Party.
My name is Rick Banks. I'm the presidential candidate for United Panthers. This is Eric Groh. He's my vice presidential candidate. I want to first start off by thanking the UWM Post, the Broadcast Club, and Panther Vision for coordinating this debate, and thank all of you for coming to hear what we all have to say. The United Panthers platform is centered around 3 points. The first is building a globally competitive UWM, and we plan to do that through strong support for student organizations, Greek life, campus sustainability and technology, athletics, and fine arts, and things like that. Our second point is protecting student interests through issues like parking and tuition, lobbying for lower tuition and tuition freezes on the state level, as well as protecting student rights and making sure that students' voices are heard at the administration. Our last point is rebuilding the Student Association to make it more accountable and transparent, making sure things are available on the website, easy to reach, making sure that we are communicating with the students and that the students are communicating with us. And that is our question.
Well, I'm Hugo Nguyen. Pleasure seeing you all here. How many of you guys are non-SA? Oh, excellent. That's like 10 more than I expected. Okay, I'm running for the president for Iconic. I'm running for Student Association. I've been in Student Association for 2 months. My vice president could not make it today because he had to work today. Our platform involves fiscal responsibility. We want efficient government spending go around. We don't want to waste money on programs that are unnecessary. And I also want to create an efficient government. I want the Student Association to go get things done, be productive, and work for the students. And our third goal is to increase student involvement in Student Association.
Okay, ASV.
Well, my name is Dan Laughland. As they said, I'm running for president with the Allied Student Voice. This is my running mate, Tereza Pelicaric. And really the core of ASV's platform is putting the students first in everything we do. And that means talking to all of them, getting their feedback, finding out what's most important to them. It's less about our own personal agendas or political ambitions than it is about what the students want. So as we've been out campaigning, we're talking to people and hearing a lot about funding for student organizations. Every single student org we talk to, it seems, is unhappy with the current SAC process in some way. So one thing that's really important is student organizations because they're so core to student life at UWM. That's one of our top priorities. And then we hear a lot about parking. We have a large proportion of commuting students here at UWM, and they need more options. And it's more creative than just, more free spots that aren't actually free, because all of this is underscored by a concern over rising tuition. Everybody's concerned about tuition going up. Student debt just went over $1 trillion. it's a problem. So we have to temper that desire for lower tuition and holding the line with these desires for a stronger student life on campus.
Thank you, Senator Laughland. Thanks to all our candidates. We'll begin now with the questions. The first one is for Iconic. A lot of students have misconceptions about the student association, or worse yet, no conception at all. How do you plan on informing students about the SA and encouraging involvement?
Well, it's about getting more students involved. I would be advocating for more open committees where students can just show up and vote in these committees. I would increase the message of student association across campus by better marketing, and I would somehow create the Senate system so more students get involved during the year, during the elections, and everything else.
Okay. Allied Student Voice.
I agree with a lot of what Hugo said. Student involvement is paramount to the SA. And right now it is kind of a closed system where if you're not on a committee or you're not on the Senate, it's really hard for people to get involved. So we need to make that fundamental shift to welcoming students to join these committees, even if they don't have a vote. We want people to participate. We have voting spots for everyone too. We need to spread the word about those availabilities. You know, there's a lot that we can do to end this conception of it being a closed system and being only if you're an SA person can you participate and get involved.
Also, there's a ton of university committees that students can participate in and really honor shared governance through our university.
All right. United Panthers.
All right, we believe that the first step towards getting more students involved is for those involved in like right now, to actually begin producing results. No student wants to be involved in something that they don't believe will accomplish anything. So the first thing we need to do is show that student association is worth getting involved, because right now we're actually doing things that benefit the student body. When they see that, hey, the student association is doing things that benefit me, I want to get involved, I want to do that, I want to benefit other students, and I want to make sure the campus is better. So that's what I believe is the first step, and once we do that, then we can start promoting the committees and all the other openings, because students will want to get involved, and that's what I believe. Eric?
Okay. Senator Nguyen, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I think I agree with what both everyone said, but there have been open Senate seats forever. We have to somehow create some sort of incentive for students to join and get involved in student association.
Okay. Would you care to rebut, Allied?
You know, I think what Rick said is a good point, that you have to have an essay that people believe in. But at the same time, excuse me, if we create an environment where people feel like if I come in and I have something that I really care about, and there's this open organization that has resources and they have a good reputation with administration, then that sort of creates that environment on its own. If we wait for people to see what we're doing, then we're going to spend too much time just waiting for results and not have the manpower that we need to get things done.
Okay. And 30 seconds to United Panthers.
Well, I would say that shared governance is a really important issue here, because students are actually supposed to make every decision with administration. And it amuses me to hear other parties in this race talk about how we need to make shared governance better, because other parties in this race have been involved with SA for years, and I'm serious, like years, and we've seen it be stagnant and we've seen it fail. So we kind of want to start fresh here, and especially with the shared governance process, how we work with administration. We want to completely transform it. So.
All right. Our next question. Over the last few years, changes to the U Park and available on-campus parking have come from both the Senate and the administration. The SA has traditionally advocated for maximizing the amount of free student parking available on and off campus, funded through segregated fees, while the administration has favored pay-per-use lots. To what extent should student government be responsible for subsidizing student parking? And we'll begin with Allied Student Voice.
Yeah, parking is something near and dear to me because I'm a commuter myself. And, you know, I did some research when we first decided to purchase the Northwest Quad and figured out we are the only four-year school in the state that doesn't offer a student parking permit on a semesterly basis. We charge everybody by the hour or by the day, and that to me is ridiculous. So the reason the SA has advocated for these kind of subsidies is because the Parking and Transit Office hasn't offered this student semester permit. That's something I'd like to see. If we can get the cost down to a point that's affordable and we don't have to put the entire burden of parking for all commuters on the entire student body, I think that's a great thing. At the same time, it's another expense for people. You know, people don't like to hear, oh, now I have to pay another X $100 for parking. So if we can temper that with free spots around the neighborhood, extending parking limits on street parking, if we can find reasonable rates for more free subsidized parking, I'm okay with that if it's a good enough deal. But I don't want to say unilaterally the SA supports free subsidized parking.
Thank you.
Parking has kind of been my baby. I do think we need to increase subsidies to parking. And it's easy to come out and say, well, like, oh, this is just not really free. But there's so many more creative things that we can do with these subsidized spaces. Right now, the free subsidized parking spaces are only open in the spring and the fall. But I'm in contact with the Office of Parking and Transit to open up the free parking spaces during winter break and spring break. So, I mean, we need to alleviate this burden to our commuters because gas prices are like sky high right now. But we have to do it keeping in mind the Parking and Transit office, keeping them in business because students work there. They're a big student employer, and right now we can make the parking office work a lot better for students. So.
I agree that with Eric, United Panthers, with their issues on parking. I think every student who commutes should have a free parking space. When they get a free parking space, they don't have to worry about paying for parking tickets and parking time limits. They get to enjoy the things on campus. Right now, the Northwest Quadrant, it's usually, I commute every day, so parking is also near and dear to me. From like 9 to 3, I noticed the Northwest Quadrant is full, but otherwise it's empty. So I think we should need like another parking lot to take care of the overflow. The pavilion parking, as was mentioned in the last Senate meeting, it was like $620 a student for 200 spots. I think we should go ahead and go with that. It would take care of the overflow from the Northwest Quadrant. I wouldn't necessarily advocate purchasing it, maybe renting it for those times every day. But parking is a major issue with students here, and we need more parking on campus.
All right, thank you. Deputy Speaker Pelicaric, would you care to rebut that? 30 seconds.
I think that looking for other options, creative options, such as like coordinating with the aldermen to get more parking or more spaces around campus is another option that we can pursue. Things like purchasing a new lot, we can combat with the whole cost of purchasing a new lot by saying like the union is more traffic for parking because you pay when you leave instead of hourly. I think something like that, going back to those spaces and having to put more money into it, is a concern for students on campus. They're not able to get out of classes and do that. So.
Thank you. United Panthers?
Well, I was going to say it's kind of misleading to start talking about the Common Council or working with the alderman. We can certainly sit down with Alderman Kovac and talk to him about our concerns, but any real huge changes have to go through a Common Council vote. So I don't want to make you a promise that I can't follow up on. But I can tell you that I'll do everything within parking's budget to make that work for us. So.
Furthermore, we plan to adopt a similar proposal that Senator Laughland said to work around the neighborhood to end or negotiate for residential preferred parking to be ended so that there are free parking spaces around campus.
Thank you.
I agree with extending parking hours around campus and anything to alleviate the parking situation on campus. When the Northwest Quadrant's full, I park in the Union, and for like 3 hours, it's like $10. So that money could go to something else, like me getting a better lunch.
All right. Our next question, as you are probably aware, student voter participation in SA elections has been very low for a number of years, with the turnout rate at or below 10%. Last fall, a number of incidents resulted in the resignations of the President, the Vice President, and members of the Senate, and triggered investigations into conduct from both the Senate Oversight and Rules Committee and UWM administration. After a year rocked by scandal, credibility of the SA is at an all-time low. What are practical differences that set you apart from past candidates? And we'll begin with United Panthers.
I think some of the differences that set us apart from past candidates are, I think we definitely have a higher moral standing than some previous candidates had. Given what past previous candidates did, I was around. I did not participate in any of the things that they were, accused of or that, that they did. So that's one of the things that sets us apart. Additionally, we have different drives. The previous administration put into place a practice where in order to run for president, that you had to be on Senate for 6 months. I fought vehemently to get that taken out, and ultimately we succeeded, and that's why Senator Nguyen is up here right now. So we are about different morals, different ethics. We're different people.
I've only been SA for 2 months. I had nothing to do with the last administration. I don't think anyone in my party was involved during the last administration in student association. Jory and I and our 21 senators, we're all new faces. We haven't been involved in the old SA, so we have nothing to do with them.
Well, how can you guarantee that you'll be different from past candidates?
Well, I'm going to reform the student association. First of all, I'm going to cut back on spending for the president executive branch. I already said I was going to work for free next year if I'm elected president. I plan on keeping that promise. And I'm going to make sure everyone works. I'm going to hold everyone accountable, too. I will not be afraid to fire someone and throw them on their bus if they do something wrong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Allied Student Voice?
You know, I think we can prove that we're different than the other candidates by looking at the legislation we've proposed and the things we've voted on. The people in our party are the ones who have supported things reforming the outreach and ethics and ending the cronyism that exists in the executive branch right now, forcing search and screen processes, opening it up to the entire student body so that we end the practice of hiring your friends. In addition, more outreach for senators, forcing them to connect with the students, involve their voice in everything we do. We also have the people on our party who were the ones instrumental in calling out these ethical violations last semester and making sure that things like that never happen again, as evidenced by some of the reforms we've seen proposed by the treasurer about controlling travel funding, making sure that it's done responsibly for an actual good purpose and not just student representatives traveling around the country for free because they can.
In addition, I was the chair of the Senate Oversight and Rules Committee. We conducted an investigation on these charges. The difference between us and the current parties here is that we've been true reformers.
Okay, thank you. 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I guess I would just say there's like a very clear distinction in this election between people who think inside the box and people who think outside the box. It's very true that they've passed a long list of extensive bureaucratic reforms, but we've been out there advocating for these additional parking spaces. Personally, I advocated for the new union, which I'm happy to announce has passed in a landslide. So we're really looking out for the students, and we're not going to get all caught up in just internal-minded. So
Thank you. Senator Nguyen?
Go for our party. We're all new, 21 new senators and new president and vice president. We're going to put the focus back on the students. We're not going to have any of the political games or anything. We're not going to play those games. So there you go.
All right. ASV?
You know, it's important to mention that I think ASV has the largest party on the ticket. We have a lot of supporters behind us. And you can't advocate for the students with a group that size unless you have a good ship internally. If the SA is running well internally, if we're not always dragged down by scandals, we don't have to rely on a single person meeting with parking and negotiating things. We don't have to rely on a single person working on the union project. We'll have 40 people in the SA working with us on these sort of issues. But in order to do that, you have to have a sound ship, and that's what we're working on.
Okay. And our party also incorporates a diversity of students.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to Lauren Reimer for a question from the audience. Lauren?
So I'm here with Julie Myers. She is an advertising student, and she is a junior. Julie, your question?
How will students' tuition continue to be affected within years to come?
All right, and we'll begin with Iconic.
I think tuition is one of the major issues on campus. A lot of students come to UWM because of the low tuition offers. I don't think UWM should be working towards becoming a research university. I think it is what it is. It's a large commuter campus, and it's like a diverse group of students that go there. I think we should keep it what it is and focus on lowering tuition, lobby with the rural regions, focusing on keeping segregated fees in check, but still providing value to the students on programs that would benefit the entire student body as a whole. Well, I would do that by, we would make each student service, take tallies how many kids actually participate in them. Then I would make a decision from that on. It wouldn't be arbitrary.
All right. ASV?
Yeah, I think it's very hard to say we won't allow tuition to be raised with the current environment we have in Madison. We're really not going to get much support for holding the line on tuition until there's a change of power there. And that's unfortunate. But the things we have direct control over are the student segregated fees. You know, we can lobby all we want in Madison. We can travel out there every single weekend meeting with people. But ultimately, we have to look at what we have actual control over, and that's our segregated fee. And I know that I'm very concerned with not raising it arbitrarily. I don't want to say I'm not going to raise it at all, because maybe we want to grow student life. Maybe we have a really good idea out there. But it's very hard with the current environment to have any control over our actual tuition other than just making noise and hoping that in the next elections we have some shifts of attitudes over there.
Okay, and United Panthers.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with what Dan said. With the current environment in Madison, it's very hard to say that we won't allow tuition to go up. But what we will do is we will continue to lobby, and we will continue our student voting registration efforts so that, you know, these people in Madison know that there are 30,000 students here on this campus who don't want their tuition to go up. And these people are registered to vote, and they're going to be informed, and they're, you know, going to be voting. So when they hear that, hopefully that'll give us some drive and effort to, you know, when we go to Madison, they'll listen to us more than they did before. As far as the seg fees, I agree again with Dan. That's all that we can control. I don't support raising it arbitrarily. However, I do believe that there are sometimes, you know, critical investments that need to be made for the benefit of student life, such as when we increase the segregated fee to move the Children's Center over to Norris Health Center or to Columbia St. Mary's. You know, it's a critical thing. They need it in order for them to still be there, and those are the kind of things that we will continue, critical investments only, and things that students support.
Okay, thank you. 30 seconds to Iconic.
I also agree that we should lobby in Madison and give it our best shot, because if you do nothing, then you can't complain. Also, with segregated fees, I think we should be used responsibly. I think I would not raise it arbitrarily. I would aim not to raise segregated fees at all if I was elected.
All right. ASV?
Go for it.
I think like saying that we're looking at critical investments is a concern when the other party has been advertising that they are getting, that they've fueled the athletic stimulus and that they've done all these things that impacted segregated fees, and they haven't been fiscally responsible in that area. I think that we need to take a good look at these SFC funding and really make a right decision and call on how we can affect tuition in that sort of way.
Thank you. United Panthers?
I just wanted to say that Senator Pelicaric voted with my athletics plan. My athletics plan was actually really cool. Athletics is in $10 million of debt. So instead of just saying, like, forget you athletics, we put a cap on their debt. We capped their debt at $10 million, and we said, you can't go over this cap, and then we funded them. We gave them more funding, but we also asked responsibility out of them. So, you know, we hear people criticizing these plans just generally, but she voted for it, and it was kind of a good idea. So.
Okay. The athletic department is facing an important decision in regards to the future of Panthers basketball. Currently, the Panthers pay to play in the U.S. Cellular Center downtown, which prevents them from making money and is inconvenient for student fans on campus. Recently, they have proposed building an on-campus arena, which would come at a cost to students. Do you support an on-campus arena, and how much should students be expected to pay for it? And this question starts with ASV.
And we're hearing a lot about major capital expenses on campus, things like rebuilding a union, on-campus arenas, integrated research complexes, freshwater science. We're building all these big, expensive buildings. And, you know, we just gave them $160 million. Well, I mean, theoretically, we'll be giving them $160 million for a new union. And we have to ask, at what point do we say, okay, you've had enough on the backs of students, it's time to go and find those alumni donations. It's time to get funding from other sources than just the student body. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen with the arena. A couple years ago, we already approved a $25 fee increase per semester to fund the arena, and we haven't heard much noise about it. All we hear is, oh yeah, it's in planning, we're thinking about it, all this is going on. And they're collecting student dollars the entire time. So when are we going to say, let's draw the line and say no more funding from students for this? If you want these big capital expenses, you're at your limit. You know, you've tapped out your credit with the students.
Okay. United Panthers?
I myself am 100% in support of the new arena. This was something that was approved via referendum 3 years ago. I think it passed with pretty good majority. I think that having the arena on campus will be a huge benefit to student life. As far as, you know, getting those alumni, that base, I think athletics is a huge important part of that. You need people to have pride in their school, and you need people to, you know, actually want to be here, and when they leave, want to come back and want to give money in order to build that base. I think having the arena on campus would be a great benefit to that. As far as the plans, I've seen plans for the arena. They now call it a convocation center so that you can use it for on-campus events, concerts, comedy shows, and things like that. This was something that was approved by the students. I think that we can help them fundraise and things like that, but I support it. Did you want anything?
I'd echo that. And we are putting an alumni center in the new union, so, you know, you got to spend money to build this alumni base. So we hear a lot of why we can't do things and a lot of why we can do things here. So,
additionally, having them continue to play off campus is bad.
Thank you. Iconic?
I think athletics are important to the university. It brings pride and joy to everyone. With the new arena, I think it's just a financial analysis, see how much revenue it brings in, see how much it would cost the students. If it brings them more revenue than it costs, then do it then. If not, then don't.
All right. 30 seconds to ASV for rebuttal.
I think that's a fair way to look at it. You know, look at it financially. If building this arena actually generates revenue, then that kind of makes sense. Then we don't have to put it on the backs of students. But if suddenly we're saying the students have to throw in another $100 million for this or whatever it costs, then that's not okay. You know, I think we need to, that's one of those things that they can find outside sources for that. We've paid for a lot of things recently.
I think that keeping these projects transparent so students can have a direct knowledge of where their money is going and what is going to come out of it. I think that a lot of students don't know what the arena building project, what's going to happen with that.
Okay, thank you. United Panthers?
Yeah, what I was going to say basically kind of starts with what Dan said. Having them continue to play at the sale is just a bad financial investment. They can't get advertising or marketing or parking rates. Having an arena owned by the school in the long run is much more fiscally responsible.
and I just think that we should be proud of who we are as Milwaukee. You know, we're not just another one of the UW schools with Madison. It's Milwaukee and Madison. There are a lot of attitudes around here like Milwaukee is just another UW school. We think that we should be competing with Madison.
And Senator Nguyen.
Do the fiscally responsible thing.
Okay. We touched on this earlier. UWM's mission as an access university has been to maximize accessibility for unconventional students as well as those with less impressive scholastic achievement in an effort to give anybody who is willing to work a chance at a college education. As a result, UWM sees many students who improve their resume and transfer to other institutions, as well as many other students who drop or fail out. This can have a negative effect on vital statistics by which colleges and universities are measured. Is it imperative to our growth as an urban research institution that we continue our mission as an access university, or could it in fact be a detriment to such growth? And we'll begin with United Panthers.
Well, as somebody who's here because of precisely what you said, I did not graduate with the best academic standing. I came here with an intention to transfer somewhere else. I got involved in student life, and you know, I kind of fell in love with the school. I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's very important that we continue to have this institution as an institution of access, so that there can continue to be people like me who can come here, who can improve their resumes, who can network with people, and who can hopefully graduate and, you know, do something better with their lives. So
I would echo what Rick said.
Okay.
I think the UWM should still stay an access university. I think it's ingrained in the culture of UWM. It makes it what it is. It's part of the genetics of UWM. Look at me. I'm a first-generation Asian American student. I had average grades in high school, and I came here and I blossomed. I'm a quadruple major and all this stuff. I'm going to grad school next year. I love UWM. It's going to always be a part of me.
All right. ASV.
I also think that UWM as an access university is a benefit rather than a detriment. You know, we might have bad statistics. We have a very high dropout rate, but I think that's okay because you know what? We gave those people a shot. And for a lot of people, that matters a lot. You know, I was unsuccessful at my first college institution, transferred here, and graduated with honors. I never would have had the grades for grad school if I hadn't come here and had the opportunity to have a different environment and really improve myself. I know Tereza's worked as a mentor as well with a lot of these first-year students. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I think that keeping it an access campus allows for us to have a difference of students coming in. It's not homogenous. There's a lot of difference of intelligence, difference of everything, where we have exposure to other people versus a homogenous campus, a homogenous society that we see kind of like Madison. I think that keeping it accessible while going towards a research institution is feasible, and I think we're doing it successfully so far.
Okay. You all seem to be on the same page. You all seem to be very honest and forthcoming with your regarding your academic track records. But we'll go to United Panthers for a rebuttal. 30 seconds.
Yeah, I have no rebuttal.
Okay. Hugo? None? ASV, would you like 30 more seconds to talk about this?
Always happy to have time to talk, but we'll let you catch up.
All right. Then we'll move on to the next question. And this is for Iconic. Well, we'll begin with Iconic. In a year when Wisconsin public employees took an effective pay cut, the Student Association voted to increase their own salaries, and recently attempts by some in the Senate to enact a freeze on future pay increases has been tabled on multiple occasions. Where do you stand on Student Association salary increases, and what kind of pay do you think constituents should expect from their public servants, especially at the student level?
At the student level, I think every student official should work for free. It should be all volunteer. But that can't be feasible because it takes a lot of time. So I think the salaries, they should be frozen or lowered. Personally, I pledge to work for free next year, so I will not be taking a salary at all if elected. I'm going to try to rein in executive pay, Senate pay, everything. We're going to rein it in, and we're going to make it efficient and give it back to the students where it belongs. Thank you.
Okay, ASV.
I've actually been playing with budget models quite a bit lately because I know this is a big question on everyone's mind. And we have to lower the salaries from where they are. The last president spent all of our reserve money creating these raises last year. So if we keep them where they are, the SA will go broke. We will be lowering salaries. I voted to table a lot of these salary freezes because they were making up numbers. When I've done my own models, done calculations on how many weeks do we actually work and what's a reasonable hourly wage for someone of the skill level required, the salaries are actually quite a bit lower than even what we've been saying in the pay freezes. So I can say I expect to be lowering everyone's salary. There's a balance between volunteering and paid position where things like, website development, copywriting, accounting, steno, things like those can be paid positions. Those are professional skills. But as far as lobbyists and the senators themselves, I want people who are passionate and who are willing to volunteer. And so I'll probably have a much smaller executive staff and be working much more with the Senate to have them do some of the more political action things.
Okay, thank you. United Panthers.
Well, I'd like to commend Senator Nguyen for pledging to work for free. I think that's commendable. And what Dan said about lowering pay being arbitrary, that's true. Like, what do you lower it to? But what I think we should do is work on a similar model to what Madison does, and that's that your tuition is paid. So we can get more creative on this. The problem is that students do this as their job. A lot of students work in SA as their job. But if the pay were something like you got a semester of tuition taken care of, you'd also have an incentive to go out there and get a weekly paycheck. So it would fix a lot of the problems that we've seen.
All right. Iconic, would you care to rebut?
SA is not your entire life. You're here to go to school and get a college degree. I'm not going to take no pay increases, pay freezes, or pay cuts will happen under me. Thank you.
Okay. ASV?
I think I've said most of what I want to say. I don't know if you want to add anything, Tereza.
Okay, United Panthers.
We're good, too.
All right. Well, this seems like a good spot for our next audience question. Lauren?
I'm here with Catherine. Catherine is a PR student. Catherine, what is your question?
What do you plan on doing to promote students to participate in extracurricular activities?
Oh, and we will begin with ASV.
The biggest part of extracurriculars, I think, is our student organizations, club sports, intramurals, things like that. And in order to help those orgs grow and to attract more members, they need to have good events, they need to have strong operations, and right now that's built on the SAC funding model. And as I said in our opening statement, every student org we've talked to is unhappy with SAC. They don't like the process, the training is bad, the notifications aren't out there where they need to be. It's a really depressing and disappointing process for everyone involved. So one thing I want to do is totally flip that model from being a how can we cut your funding to how can we help you sort of a committee. Now obviously we can't fund everybody at full, we don't have the money for that, but I think we can definitely balance between spreading the wealth, fully supporting the best events on campus, while at the same time preventing any particular org based on knowing more about the process or knowing more about the committee, having that advantage and using that to give some orgs an advantage over others just because they happen to know more about this particular funding model.
Okay, United Panthers?
I would agree with a lot of what Senator Laughland said. There are problems with the SAC process. It needs to be reformed. I think that we need to do that by working with the student organizations to gather input on what they think the best model would be so that we can develop a comprehensive reform that benefits everybody. Obviously, you're never going to be able to fully fund all organizations, but you can simplify the process, you can make it easier to understand, and you can make it so that everybody has a fair shot of getting equal funding. Another thing that I've been working on a lot this year is reforming the way club sports specifically get funded, because right now they go through the SAC process, but I believe that it's really detrimental to their operations to have to go through that process because it's on a semester basis, and their specific needs is catered to more of a year-long basis. So if we move them out from under SAC to a different funding module, similar to what they do at Whitewater, then it'll be easier for them to get a year-long budget. And if we do reforms like this to promote student orgs, they'll be better, and students will want to get involved because they'll know what these student organizations are doing.
Thank you.
I agree with Dan on the fact that student orgs should not have an advantage because they know the process of getting SAC fees. I think we should redo the SAC model so it's either proportional or what they add into campus. I think we should also get more information on how student orgs, individual student orgs can fundraise better. I know Alpha Kappa Psi in the business school, they do a great job fundraising and they host their own events and everything. So.
I agree with that as well. Creating resources for student orgs to find grants in the community. There are tons of nonprofits out there who can help to co-sponsor org events so that they don't have to rely on SAC as much. But it's important to point out that the past leadership of the SAC committee, the ones who have made everyone so disappointed and disenfranchised with the process, are the ones running with United Panthers. And I hate to call them out because they do work hard, but they're just in over their head and they're not doing it right. So with our party, we can promise reform to the SAC process. People won't be walking away just pissed off at everybody and never wanting to come back. We're actually going to rebuild this, and we've started that already. We have student org leaders running with us, and we're going to work on that reform.
Thank you. United Panthers?
Yeah, the people that are running under United Panthers are the current SAC chair and vice chair, and right now they're working with the system that they have that was put in place, years ago. It would be, irresponsible to change the system right now in the middle of the year. They do everything that they can to assist student orgs with planning and getting quotes and even, filling out the grant with them if they need it. Right now we're working with the system that we have over summer. We're going to meet and think about what will be a better process. Starting in the fall, we'll start reforming. More than likely, a full reform is going to take, a year or so, and so it probably won't be implemented until after we're out of office because you can't start then.
I would also advocate a standardized system that's fair and applies to everyone. You have a fair system, and everyone will be happy with the system, whatever result it could get. Because if the system's fair, then the results are fair.
Okay, thank you. According to statistics, 60% of UWM area neighborhoods are occupied by non-owning renters, most of them students. That means 40% of the neighborhood is made up of permanent residents. Do you think students have a responsibility to neighbors in regards to behavior, and what do you believe the SA's role should be in maintaining neighborhood relations? And this question begins with Iconic.
They should know that it's a college city and there's got to be parties. If they don't want to live here, they should move. Otherwise, we have Coast here that would be really effective. Coast is a great student org. They can work with the people that live around campus and give them information on what to do. Or the neighbors could go to the students' houses and they could talk to them nicely. But.
Okay. ASV, your platform, neighborhood relations?
I grew up on a block where we knew all of our neighbors and we all got along, but then again, I lived there for 10 years and most people live here for, a couple. So I would like to see more just neighborhood outreach, block parties, something to get people out of their houses Safety programs are a big thing. We can work with entire blocks to tell everyone, keep your street lights on, keep your porch lights on, because it makes the block safer when there's more light. And that's going to require cooperation between the students and the non-students who live around here. I mean, there are parties that happen, there's noise complaints, trash that's around, but I'd like to see, we can work with a lot of student orgs to do trash cleanups. We have coast leaders who are out there trying to at least keep the partying under control. You know, college students they're going to do what they're going to do, but we can work with them to be polite about that and be courteous to their neighbors. There's really a lot of work that can be done to improve these relationships.
United Panthers?
I'm not going to go so far as to say we should have students picking up trash in the neighborhood, but what I can tell you is the key here is communication. I work as a chief poll inspector at the Urban Ecology Center, and a lot of the people that work with me are involved in the neighborhood association. And there's a lot of common ground. I mean, we both have our things that we're not happy about, but I mean, we just need to start communicating more with the people who are in neighborhood relations, and I'm sure we can come up with something that is favorable to both the students and the neighbors. But you know, we have to, as SA, keep in mind the student interest, that students have rights in that neighborhood. So always something to keep in mind.
Senator Nguyen, do you agree?
I agree with them. They have to know it's a college college area, so things are going to happen regarding with parties. But I agree with Dan that that safety, neighbors, students, and regular people should work together on safety. But
okay. ASV?
I mean, we sat on neighborhood committee meetings, and we kind of got the input of when is the problem with students? Like, why is there such a problem between students and neighborhood people? And the basic problem is that we're not allowing them information like, when are we going to have these huge parties? When should you know about, like, campus kickoff, things like that, to get them acquainted with, like, how college is going to be when people move in here. So when we get the communication, like Eric said, going, like, they're more reasonable to work with, and they're willing to see students at the table of their neighborhood meetings. So, like, when we go there and see our faces, they're more willing to work with us.
All right, thank you. United Panthers?
Yeah, I would agree with Eric as well as the other candidates. It's simply about communication, and it sucks because every year or so the student residents change, but what we need to do is start building the community, building the network so that these people aren't afraid to talk to each other, you know, so that when you want to throw a party, you're not afraid to go and say, hey, I'm going to throw this party. If it gets too loud, feel free to come over and tell us, you know, it's too loud. We'll try to keep the trash down and things like that. It's about communication, building a community, and, you know, trusting each other.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go back to Lauren for another audience question. Lauren?
Hi, I'm here with Matt. Matt is a computer science major. Matt, what's your question?
As we all know, SA is a very centralized model for student government. And what Senator Laughland says, that we should open up a lot of more committees. Would any of you support the notion of opening some committees to students where they can be treated as just a committee member, where they can debate, where they can vote on things for a lot of social action issues? Like, for example, opening up the Voting Rights Committee, where anybody can show up and vote, anybody can debate, where they're just like any other committee member. And also Council for Diversity and Inclusion. I really like the committee. I like what it's supposed to do, but frankly, it hasn't been doing much this year. And I feel like if we open it up to students, I feel like we can get more results out of those committees.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Senator Rosner. We'll start with ASV.
You know, specifically to address the SVRC and CDI, the thing about committees that's always confused me about how we build them is we have these slots for voting people, but these are committees that don't have limited resources. They don't have any resources. It's just figuring out what they're going to work on, and they vote on that. And I've never understood why we have a closed membership for something like that. Anybody who wants to get involved in these issues should be able to show up and have a vote on those things. Now, on our financial committees, are the ones that have limited resources to allocate, then the voting model makes sense, where we have, you know, a specific number for equal representation, things like that. But other committees, you know, let's open it up to any student who wants to come and who wants to get involved. I sort of built CAB that way, where anybody who wants to come to our meetings is fine. One of the biggest disagreements I've had with Rick this year is that he doesn't let people who are non-senators speak at Senate meetings on issues. You know, that's one of the reasons I became a senator, because I didn't have a voice in those meetings all of a sudden. So I think opening it up recognizing the diversity of opinions and information that's out there is really important to making committees effective.
All right, thank you. United Panthers.
Yeah, I would agree that we should open up those committees, specifically like SLIC, CDI, and SVRC. Those are committees that they don't really have an assigned financial things that they specifically have to take a vote on. It's more, what issue are we going to tackle now? Let's tackle this issue. I've been more in favor earlier this year of simply abolishing them as committees and more establishing them as like executive task forces, and that way they're not, restricted to open meetings laws and things like that, because they're simply advocacy groups advocating for, student issues and things like that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, on a thing like CAB, it's the Campus Activities Board, they have a substantial budget, about $300,000, and I wish I could have voted because they spent a ton of money bringing in Bob Saget recently, and I wish we could have funded like the Voting Rights Committee or something with these funds, so more responsible expenditures. I know we can all talk about everybody's pay, but if we're spending $60,000 bringing in Bob Saget, it's an issue.
Thank you.
I agree with Dan with the committees that have unlimited resources that can that they should be open committees. With the committees with limited resources, they should not be open committees because students can just come and pack it. Otherwise, I agree with everything he said.
30 seconds. ASV.
Well, if Eric's going to go after CAB, I have to defend that. I mean, we created this silo of money, and then this was a mistake made last year, in my opinion. We created this silo of money for campus activities, never built a committee around it or a model or how we're going to do these things. So we're left with this pile of money just sitting there that's supposed to be for campus events. And until very recently, we had nobody planning anything about it. And that's kind of where I stepped up when the committee fell apart this year and said, let's start planning some things. So I reached out to agents and, the people that I know are popular acts that people would be happy to see. This is what we have to do with the CAB budget. It's unfair to say I should have given that to student voting rights, because that's just not how it's allowed to be used.
Thank you. United Panthers. Care to rebut?
No.
Okay. Iconic.
I don't think we should have money sitting around that's inefficient government, so that's it.
All right. Well, that provides a nice segue for our next question, which is, given the state political environment, how do you plan on working with those of differing opinion, both on the campus level and statewide? And we'll start with United Panthers.
I'll take this one.
Yeah.
I know Senator Nguyen's running mate is vice chair of the College Republicans. I'm one of the members of College Democrats, and I've always seen him as a very intelligent individual and someone that I would be fine working with. So, no problem working with the other side. We're all student advocates. We're all advocating for the students here, not for one particular party ideology. So.
Yeah, I'm also a very open guy. I'm good friends with Eric, too, and Tereza. You guys want to have lunch with me or something, just ask me and I'll take you out to lunch. I'll pay you, too. I'm not afraid to work with any side. I'm a friendly guy. I have a sense of humor. I'll get along with people. But I'm here to advocate for students, and if students come first, and they're going to be a priority. So,
Okay.
Well, we've got the College Democrat, the College Republican. I'm going to have to out myself as the Libertarian in the group. But, that's how I feel at the federal level. Here, locally, I believe in the smaller local governments, and I'd like to work with them. Both parties have good points on some issues. Like I said, we're not going to get support for higher ed unless there's a change of attitude in Madison. And I guess that means more Democrats right now. But at the same time, I think Republicans have good ideas. So working with other political groups is something I'm very open to. And I haven't met with their particular officers for the other parties, but I'm open to talking with them and anyone who's involved in political action or has an opinion on those things.
Okay. I guess a 30-second rebuttal. How would you work with, other parties, specifically, when they're in opposition to things you're trying to get done?
Other SA political
Yes,
parties?
yes.
Well, we're more than willing to conversate with any of the other parties. We've had conversations with both parties as the campaign is going on. Agree with Dan. Both parties have great ideas that we'd like to see implemented one way or another, win or lose.
Senator Nguyen?
they're friendly, and we're friendly. I'm open to working with them. Also, Dan, I'm a Libertarian also.
Okay, and ASV.
Do you have anything to add? I think we covered it. You know, we're all sort of in agreement here that it's important to work with both sides and have those conversations and do everything we can to make what's known for student issues and work with them on those things.
I think putting the students first before what we stand for and getting input from all avenues, we can get a lot accomplished by hearing every argument there is and then make a decision based upon that. I think keeping it open, keeping it transparent, that's really the key to enforcing an effective government.
All right, thank you. As you all know, safety is a concern for many, especially students coming from outside of Milwaukee. What more should be done to address students' concerns about safety? And we'll begin with Iconic.
Well, we live in like an urban environment, so things are going to happen. I think it goes back to educating students about how they go out and about. I think reiterate that they should show up, walk together in groups around campus, and give them research, like the little phones around campus. Two student association meetings, so we get these cool whistles. I call them emergency whistles or rape whistles, and they're really loud. Like that. If you're trying to go insult me, I would blow the whistle really loud, and everyone around me would come and save me, hopefully. But again, work with the police department to try to get them to drive around campus more in the areas around at night. Tell students not to wander into scary places and travel in groups, and carry a whistle.
ASV.
You know, when our director of marketing did a student survey earlier this year, the top issue, the top concern on students' minds was campus safety. And, you know, I mean, Milwaukee's not a terribly dangerous city. I mean, it has areas that are better than others, but 2/3 of the student body aren't from Milwaukee County. This is a foreign environment to them. It could be a very, very safe city, and it would seem scary because it's a new place. So the police department does a very good job of safety outreach and programs and things for students, but they haven't been immune to the budget cuts lately. So I'd like to lobby for more support of our police department because they have a lot of good things that they do to reach out to the students. The SA has its own programs. I tried this thing called Refuse to be a Victim. Didn't have very good turnout because I guess people didn't want to spend a whole night talking about this. But there is interest out there in these kind of programs, and I've worked to start them up before. I'd like to work to start them up again.
Okay. United Panthers?
Yeah, I would agree with what both candidates said. I think an important part is educating students either when they first get to campus or when they first get to campus, as well as they continue to be on campus, about safety precautions, about walking alone at night or too early. But additionally, what Dan said was very good as far as working with the police department, making sure that they're out and that people know that they're around. One of the important pieces about safety that I actually just learned last night while taking a bus van was that there's a period of time between like 5 and 6 where boss isn't running and safe doesn't work, so it's like there's nothing you can do if you have to go to work really early. I think we could work with safe to have them increase their numbers, maybe increase their hours. I know that they cut some people because of budget cuts. If we could work to find some money to help keep these positions, keep things active so that people have resources to use.
Okay. Senator Nguyen, anything to add?
I think we should focus on educating students. It's probably the cheapest and most effective way of doing it.
ASV?
Freshman outreach, I think, is critical. Like I said, the week that students get here, the people who are new to Milwaukee, I guess we don't have much orientation for transfer students, but that would be a good thing to reach out to, people who are new to Milwaukee but aren't freshmen.
I think even now, our prospective candidates, we've been in talks with Matt Krause in housing, talking about educating students that are freshmen and that are into housing. Also, as a first-year mentor, I kind of took my students out into the neighborhood, the first-year students, and showed them around, made sure that they knew about the safety issues and like how to stay safe in the neighborhood. And I think that educating students is key.
Thank you. United Panthers.
Would agree. Nobody's gonna disagree. Safety is a huge issue. We need to do outreach. We need to make sure students always have protection.
Okay. In addition to the $250,000 that comprises SA's organizational budget, the President sets fiscal policies and appointments that handle the allocation of over $9 million in student fees. What kind of financial experience do you have, and what would be some clear strategies for your administration's fiscal policy? And we'll begin with Allied Student Voice.
So I'm a graduate student in professional writing, but my bachelor's degree is in business administration. So I know how to read accounting ledgers. I know what it means when we have deficits and how to deal with budget shortfalls. And I had my own department this year. I was the head of the communications department in the SA, where we had a marketing and a programming budget and had to decide how much am I going to spend on hiring an hourly assistant and how much are we going to spend on marketing these things and these programs and the amount of money that we had. So the importance of fiscal policy can't be overstated. Like, this is sort of the core of what SA does, is allocating this funding. So you have to have a very good grasp on finances and how these things work, and I know that I do. I mean, I graduated with honors with a business degree, so if that means anything to you, you know, I have a pretty good handle on numbers. I know what Hugo's going to say about that, but...
All right, United Panthers?
Well, I myself have served on SAC for 3 semesters. I think that's a very beneficial student experience as far as looking at grants and student budgets. Also sat on the EdTech fee committee, which is kind of like a SEC fee committee, but not really. It deals with the technology that goes in the union funding, the computers and things like that. As Speaker of the Senate, I'm the Chief Administrator of the Senate budget, as well as I've served as Treasurer of the Black Student Union over the past semester. So that's my financial experience. Surprisingly a lot. I don't think it would be that much, but
Me, I took Economics 103 and 104. And I was a huge pain to the parking office. When we were doing the Finance Committee process, they eventually submitted a 123-page document on their budget to me. We fought to freeze parking rates because of that budget, and so I can say that I was a pain to this office, but it was probably better for the students. So.
Okay.
I also passed Econ 103 and 104, by the way. I'm an accounting, econ, finance, and marketing major. I'm going to graduate in a span of 3 years, 3.8 GPA. I'm going to the MS Finance program next year. I'll be taking the CPA exam starting this summer. So if I'm president, you'll be getting a CPA for the price of 0, which I think is a pretty good deal. Don't you agree? Also, about 6 or 7 of our candidates are also accounting majors. So we're going to have great expertise in the financial area, where hopefully we will make an efficient government and give some money back to the students or provide more value to them. I also own my own business. I help with my parents' business. I'm in charge of all the ledgers. I do their taxes. And I run their books. I also make a good Excel program. Thank you.
Okay. ASV, would you like to take another 30 seconds to talk about the millions of dollars in SEG fees that SA oversees?
Yeah, you know, understanding the finances is one thing, and then being able to allocate them efficiently. I also serve with Rick on the EdTech committee, and a lot of these you have to look critically at, you know, all of a sudden you see a line item for $3,000 for software that's going to be used for 10 people, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, why are we paying for this when Skype exists or you know, when Google Docs exists? And there are situations like that where it's not just having an understanding of the financial calculus, it's understanding what are we buying, what are we getting for our money here, and taking the time to look at each item.
Thank you. United Panthers.
Yeah, I would agree with Dan. I think the most important thing is results. Regardless of how much money or how little money you have, you need results from what you're going to get. So making sure you're spending the money efficiently, making sure that if you're going to have salaried employees, making sure they're actually doing the work, being fiscally responsible, all of that is very important.
Okay, thank you. Senator Nguyen.
I'm good with money.
Okay. We will conclude our debate then with one question specifically for each of the 3 presidential candidates. These questions will not allow for rebuttal. And we'll start with you, Speaker Banks. In your 2 years of Senate leadership, the Senate has maintained several vacant seats. As president, one of your primary duties is to advocate for student involvement and get students interested in the SA. How confident can students expect you to be in that role?
I think very confident. Like I said, one of my primary goals is to have a results-based administration. And if you have that, if your leadership is actually doing something and getting results, then people are going to be excited to get involved. I think one of the problems over the past 2 years is that SA hasn't been exactly focused on 100% results. And I think if we can move forward in that direction, then people will be excited. And maybe we can have a full Senate for once, because people will be excited to be involved. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. We go now to Senator Laughland. In your role as communications director this past year, one of your major responsibilities was updating and maintaining the SA website. This year was also supposed to see the launching of a new website. As of right now, not only is there not an upgraded website, but the current one has been lacking in updates. There are minutes missing, and a picture of former SA President Alex Coastal is still featured on the homepage, and the most recent announcement is from December 12th regarding Coastal's resignation. Given that, how can you be trusted to handle the increased responsibilities of public relations and image that come from the office of president?
Who wrote that?
You know, I'm a little disappointed with our website myself, and it's because this year it was my intention not to work on that anymore. When I became Director of Communications, which was a step up from just being the web guy in the past, I wanted to add on all these responsibilities of marketing and PR and general image for the organization because I thought we were going to outsource doing the website to a different office. That didn't happen. So all of a sudden, I'm the only person who knows how the website works. I had to readopt all these responsibilities on top of the things I planned to do that year. So that's sort of why it fell back this year. As for the new site, it's been delayed because things happen. I am no longer with the exec branch, so I'm working on CAB full-time and campaigning, and it became sort of the extra attachment to my job responsibilities that didn't get the focus it needed. And that's unfortunate because it is one of our bigger communication tools. But you know, the bigger communication tool is our Facebook and Twitter feeds, which up until I left the department, we're doing really well. We got a lot of good feedback from students there. Anyone who emailed us got a response. Those sorts of things were working, and anyone who requested records had them. So even though the website may not have been 100%, it didn't sacrifice our communication ability.
Thank you, Senator Laughland. Senator Nguyen, in February, you said you were 99.9% sure you would drop out of the race. Later, you implied in an email that if elected, you would spend your salary on a new motorcycle. You named one bill after yourself and used the phrase, like taking candy from a dead baby, in another. Photos have surfaced of you dressed as Hitler, and you joked about bribing the election commissioner to rig the election. Are you a serious candidate for this position, or are you just interested in making a spectacle?
Well, I'm serious about this. Can we start with the list so I can explain each one? Okay. For the email, the bike thing was an analogy. It was a humorous excuse of why I would not be taking a salary next year because I didn't want to kill myself on a motorcycle. But and then the costume, it was a Halloween costume from last year. I talked to the Jewish people, the Halo, they seemed to like me. They invite me to other events and everything, so we made up. If you're Jewish, I will buy you a dinner, so come and ask me. We can make it a date too if you're a girl, but. What was the other one?
Well, we also had the
language
in the bills and the bribe. Alleged bribe.
The bill, it was a play on taking candy from a baby, but I thought making a dead baby would make it a little bit more extreme, which I should not have done looking in hindsight since it caused so much controversy. And the bribery, the bribery took place when I turned in the signature sheets. Dan Laughland and Tereza were staying with me, is that correct? Yes, you were. Were you there too? No, but it was a joke. We were sitting around, laughing around, and then we were having a good time. Then we were talking about SUFC and how they rigged the election. So I made the message to Dewey's, and we all laughed and smiled, and he told the Post it was a joke too, so it was a joke.
Thank you,
serious.
Senator Nguyen.
Thank you very much, Zach.
That is our final question. Thank you to both the candidates and the audience for participating. And now we go to Lauren Reimer for some closing thoughts.
That concludes the 2012 essay Your Voice, Your Vote debate presented by the UWM Post and the UWM Broadcast Club. Elections run from April 10th through the 12th, and ballots will be distributed through your PantherLink email address. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the April 16th issue of the UWM Post for a full interview with the next essay president.